So how would you do this first one? What would you do, guys? How would you pay for paying? How much would you pay now for 200,000? By the way, how much you would pay now is called a what? Present value. It's a present value times zero. So right away, what I want to do, the way I like to approach these, is I want to find out what I need to know, right? I am going to go after present value. So here for the first one, I'd like to get present value now. That's what. So immediately or as soon as possible, I figure out what I want to know. Okay? By the way, later we're going to have two unknowns, huh? And you got to figure out which one's easiest to solve first, and then we move on. Okay? In real life, all of these will be unknowns, right? A lot of times, you're guessing all of them, okay, and trying to value things. All right. Anyway, so and then it says it's 200,000 received 12 years from now. What do we call that? What would we call that 200,000 12 years from now? It's a future value, and it'd be a future value some number of periods from now. Well, we already know that the number of periods, don't we? Okay, number of periods is 12. That's 200,000. So just get yourself organized. That we've got that. Okay, what else do we need to know? The number of periods. They gave us that, right? I gave it to you. It's 12 years, and I made it years. It doesn't matter if it's years, months, quarters, right? Just keep track of what it is and get your interest rate per month if it's monthly. Get your interest rate per quarter if it's quarterly. Don't give me months and then use an annual interest rate. You're assuming that interest rate is every month. So if it's 12% a year for 4 years, and then I say monthly, what do we just turn it into? 1% a month for, I said 4 years, didn't I? 48 months, right? Yeah. Change them both. Don't just change one of them. It'll go nuts on you, right? That's a real common mistake people make. Real common. Get in a rush, right? And I'll adjust the months to the correct number of periods, right? The years into months, or quarters, or semi-annual, or whatever, right? But I want to adjust the interest rate. I'll go the other way. I'll adjust the interest rate, and I'll want to adjust the number of periods. And it just goes crazy, okay? All right, so n is 12. So the n in both places is 12, of course. Okay, and then what else do we need to know? Interest rate, right? So the cost of capital is our interest rate here, 8%. Now it's easy. So identify them that way, no matter how long the problem is or how complex it gets. If it is a lump sum, that's what it is. What's the other possibility? It doesn't have to be a lump sum. It could be a number of sums, which would be a what? Annuity payment. So if you have an annuity payment, it's different, huh? And there are two kinds of annuity payments. What are they? There's annuity due. Guess what that is? The payment is due. It is at the beginning of the period. Okay? So it's right in the name. And ordinarily, I don't know why it was named that way, but I guess that's what it is. Ordinarily, payments are when you borrow money at the end of the period. So I guess that's why it's ordinary. Okay, ordinary annuity. You've got to watch for that. You've got to watch for it at the beginning or the end. It's one more or one less period, right? You're all looking at me like, yeah, I know this, I know this, now I know this, and I'm going to give you a quiz in a couple of days, and you're going to just tank it. Because everybody always does. Practice these. Pull these problems out and work them, okay? Work them and work them and work them and work them and think about it, okay? They just get really interested. All kinds of crap's going on, okay? So you can have, how many cash flows could you have in a business deal? Oh, man. You know, in and out, cash for all kinds of reasons, right? In real life, you can design a problem really easily. Could interest rates change over the term? Sure, why not? Okay? Could some payments be at the beginning of the year and some at the end of the year? Sure, why not? Okay? You can do all kinds of things with these problems, and they will. Because in real life, people structure business deals that are all over the map, too. So these are straightforward. What do we do with this first one? How would you set it up? I don't really care how you set it up, but a good way to do is what? Maybe write the future value down here. It's 200,000. Anybody do it this way? Actually, you just plug in your calculator and calculate it. You do that too if you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing. Otherwise, if it's fuzzy for you, I recommend writing it down. Huh? That makes sense? If you always get the right answer computing with your calculator and you don't ever have to write anything down, I'm fine. I'll give you 30 of them on a quiz, and you can just boom, 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 and you can walk out of here. But make sure you know what you're doing. Okay? Same thing at work. Make sure you know what you're doing. Okay? So 200,000 times what? What would it be? I'm discounting, right? So it's dividing, isn't it? Right? Instead of compounding, discounting. 1 over 1 plus the interest rate. Isn't that right, guys? Raise the number of periods. Will give me the present value at time 0, which is what I want, of course. Okay, so I'm going after this one. So you could set it up like this if you want. Okay, So it's 1 over what? 1.08, is that right? Raised to the 12th. If you want, you can go look up the factor on the table. Where would you find the factor on the table if you want to do that? Okay, present value of a sum, what page are you on? 337. If you want to use the tables, right? Okay. On page 337? Okay, already. Wow. Page 337, okay? And where do you go on that page? 8% column? Go down to 12 periods, and what do you pick up? What's the factor? How'd they get that number? They put in a calculator 1 over 1.08 and they raised it to 12. Everybody knows this? Right? That's all they did. Okay? And I already explained why we have these tables, right? You don't need them anymore, except the table's kind of nice to look at what the progression is for different interest rates and so on. Okay? It's fine. You can use it if you want. What's worth 40 cents? 39.7 cents. Put it in English. What is it?
$1 received in futures worth 40 cents now.
$1 received 12 periods in the future, discounted at 8%, is worth, its present value, is 39.7 cents. Right? Each of the dollars are worth that. Everybody in the room knows this, right? And you've got it intuitively, right? By the way, I don't think you all have this intuitively yet. I really believe you don't. Even if you think you do, maybe you don't. Because I see the results when I give you guys a quiz on something you think you already know how to do. So make sure you got it. Make sure you really got it. And I'm going to give you ample opportunity to prove it to me, okay? We really want to have this wired before we go on to the next step, okay? And you want to use this all the way through the program. We value everything this way, okay? Any cash flows in the future. Why would anybody invest in anything that didn't generate the cash flows for them in the future? So we value everything this way. Everything we invest in this way, okay? Yeah. All right. If I'm hiring you and I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year, I want to know what your cash flows, what positive cash flows you're going to generate for me. I know what the negative ones are. I'm giving you that money, right? I sign a contract to give you that money. I want to estimate what you're going to give to me. And I want to know how risky it's going to be, and I'm going to discount it back to now. And just think about it this way. Even if you don't quantify it, you think about it this way. Otherwise, you will become a wealth generator for other companies. They'll take your money away from you. All they'll do is they'll give you more money now than you currently have, and you have to give them a lot more later. They'll wait, and they'll take all your wealth away from you because you're not willing to wait. That gratification of having that money now is really tempting, isn't it? You're asking me about retiring, right? Investments, annuities. You have to give it up now to have it later. Oh, it's not good at that. Did I tell you guys that I lied to her and said she couldn't borrow from a retirement account for a long time? God, it worked well. It doubled 3 times before she found out she could borrow against it. Oh, that was kind of nice, huh? Doubled up, and doubled up. She probably always knew and just... No, she didn't. Okay, anyway, so 200,000 times 39 cents. Am I right, guys? That's all we're doing.
Wait, why did you raise the whole thing to the 12th? I thought you only raised the denominator to the 12th, and then when you're trying to find the future value, you raised it.
No, the future value would be no 1 over it, because you're not going to divide. When you put 1 over the top, what have you done? You've taken the reciprocal, you're dividing. We'll do a future value in the next one. By the way, you could write it either way. You can put 1 over 1.08 raised to the 12th, or you can take 1 over 1.08 and raise it to the 12th. Either way gets the same answer.
In the book, when it's like the formula to find like the present value factor is 1 over 1 plus I raised to the n. Like the raised to the n at the bottom.
This is the same as this.
So it's not going to do anything.
It doesn't make any difference. It's the same thing. That's okay. Right? This is what I mean by sort of getting your head around it. And does it make sense? Right? Does everything make sense? All we're doing is we're dividing, right? In both cases, all we're doing is dividing. And because this is a 1, it won't make any difference where you put the n. Does it make sense? Yeah. How long will it take me to get rid of that? A week? All right, guys. That's good. Good question. All right, guys. We get 39 cents how many times? 39.7 cents how many times? We're not going to have $1 at the end. We're going to have 200,000. So you take 200,000 times 0.39711, right? That's why. Okay, how much is it worth right now? What was 200 times 0.39711?
79,423.
Okay, so now another way we could look at this. We invest $79,423, and we want to have 200,000 at the end. How long do we need to leave it for? And what interest rate do we need? Actually, there's an infinite number of combinations for that. So I better add something else. What if I want to leave it for 12 years? What interest rate do I have to have? 8%. We could calculate that too, couldn't we? Or if I know I'm going to earn 8%, I could calculate the 12, and we'll do that in a few minutes, okay? All right, so there's one. So it's 79,423, right? Okay, let's try the second one. What is it going to be? Let's see. Let's add. How am I going to do that? How do I move my pages around, guys? Oh, like this. Okay. Then I put page. No, I knew how. Number 2. What'd you do for the second one? You invest 10,000 now. What's that? That's a present value. At 12% interest compounded quarterly for 5 years. Okay, so I've got a present value at time 0 equals $10,000. So identify what they are. Okay? If you're using your calculator, you put that in as the present value, right? That's it. Okay? And what's the 12%? Oh, that would be, what would you think that would be? Do you think that's how much it is quarterly? 12% every quarter? That'd be 48% a year, only even more than that because it's compounded, right? Which is illegal in, I think, virtually every state. Okay? Yeah. So when somebody says an interest rate, that's a great question too. When somebody says an interest rate, what do they mean? Per year unless what? They specifically state otherwise. What if they say 1% a month? I know it's per month. Nobody ever states it quarterly, okay? Unless it's a bank and then they do all kinds of crazy things in their ads. But in the contracts, they'll always say the annual interest rate or the monthly interest rate. I've never seen it any other way, okay? On bonds, they don't say how much interest you get every 6 months. They say what your annual interest rate is. That's another good question, because you've got to think about that, don't you? So here we are. We've got 12% interest, but that's per year, right? What's my period? N is going to be what? It says 5 years, but be careful. What's it going to be? Times 4 for quarterly, so what's N? 20 periods. Everybody good? So I got $10,000 that I'm going to leave for 20 periods, and I want to compound it at what? If it's 12% per year, and it's 4 times a year, divided by what? 4 also, and that's 3%. Everybody see it? You have got to get your interest rate and your number of periods in the same denomination, okay? In this case, quarters. Did I do it right? And now it's simple. If you miss that when you're reading the problem, you're dead meat, right? It's going to look like it's, I don't know, 4 years at 5 years at 3%, or 20 years at 12%, or some weird thing you're going to come up with, and the answer's going to be ridiculous to come up with. Okay, so what's the only other piece that I don't have here? In fact, what did they ask for? 1 second. What did they ask for? How much will I have when? At the end of 5 years. 5 years, to me, is in the future, right? 5 years from now. Future value in 5 years is future value of time in. In is 5 this time, right? Okay, question, comment?
So whenever it talks about interest, when you're setting it up, question, it's automatically going to be talking about a year.
It'll be a year unless it states otherwise. So if it doesn't say, it might say per annum, which means annually, or it might say per year or something like that, right? Annually, it might say, or it might say nothing. If it says nothing, it's still per year.
Because reading it, it almost looks like it's already taken into account the quarter.
Oh, reading what I wrote?
Yeah.
Yeah, too bad. I didn't say per month. Okay? And that's a really good point. Yeah, that's the point I want to make, because that's how people talk about it. We always talk about interest rates on a general basis. Okay? Well, not always, sometimes we say per month. But yeah. Okay? That work? And that hangs up a lot of people on the problem. So you look at the problem, you kind of, well, where did it tell me that, you need to divide? Well, it doesn't. It just tells you the interest rate. I mean, you could surmise it some from how big the interest rate is, right? Okay. All right. So, like you guys just did. So how'd you calculate this one? Set it up any way you want. Plug it into the calculator, obviously, if you want. What would we do? Present value at time 0 is 10,000. I always set them up exactly the same way. Creature of habit that I am. And having learned how to do this before there were handheld computers. We did have calculators, but boy, they weren't very good either, looking back on them. What do? We take it times what? 1 plus the interest rate, because we're adding interest, right? Raised to the number of periods. So this is going to be what? 1.03, 3% interest, raised to the 20th. And if you want, you can go look up the factor, or you can just calculate it. You can plug it in your calculator, calculate the whole thing. What is 1.03 raised to the 20th? Which table are we on now, guys? Future value of a sum, right? Of $1 amount. Future value of a sum. So what page is that on? For 3%. 330? 335. Okay, on page 335, go to the 3% column, go down to 20 periods, and you will pick up what factor? What is it?
0611.
What does that mean? What'll become worth $1.81? $1, 20 periods in the future, compounded at 3% interest, will grow to $1.81. Everybody got it? That's all you did. Wow, it's only 3% interest, but it's 20 periods. It's a long time, right? Okay. Is that more, by the way, than 12% would have been for 5 years? More or the same or less? It's the same? Got him. Let's do it. Present value at time 0, 10,000. Let's say instead the problem had said, this is great, 1.12, 12%, but only 5 periods. I mean, isn't 12% for 5 periods the same as 3% for 20 periods? No! Why not? There's compounding, there's interest on interest. Wow, we could extract wealth from you if you believe that, huh? And people will. Banks love to tell you things like it. Interest compounds daily. You know what? Daily and monthly are just about exactly the same thing. Monthly and quarterly are real different from each other. And quarterly and annually are a lot different than each other. It's really deceptive, isn't it? Or they'll say continuously. That means it does it continuously. There's a formula for doing that. It's no different than daily. Nice advertisement, though, isn't it? You'll see it. Right? Don't get sucked into the factors. It doesn't mean anything. Don't give them more of your wealth, right? Because they're not giving you anything. Okay, anyway. So what is this? What's 12% 5 periods? Tell me what that factor is, you guys. Look at 12% column down to 5 periods. Future value of sum.
1.76234.
Oh yeah, does it make a little difference? Yeah. So quite a bit. What'll this one be? 10,000 times 1.8. You get $10,000, not $1. Okay. So what is that? 18,000. Yeah, maybe 11 with your calculator, right? Okay, because it didn't round. These tables rounded. Okay, and then what would this one be? $623.40, something like that. Okay, so yeah, it makes a difference. Yeah. Okay, so we care, right? All right. So we got the future value too, huh? This is calculating a future value, some number of periods from now. By the way, on any of these, do we care what the interest rate is? Not in the least. Do we care what the number of periods is? Not in the least. Do we care what the cash flow is? Not in the least. All the calculations are exactly the same no matter what, right? So don't let big numbers intimidate you, please. If it's in billions, who cares? It doesn't matter, right? Just calculate it. Just relax and calculate it. If the interest rate is 0.02564%, who cares? Plug in your calculator and calculate it, okay? I won't give you those. Why? I don't want you to be able to use the tables, so I'll try to make them fit the tables, unless I forget, and then I'll, screw up. There's no 7% on the table. Somehow I always manage when I write a problem to throw in 7, and if I do, I'll just change it. Yeah.
When you put it in your calculator, you don't change the inputs. It stays at 12.
Yeah, but you have to tell it that it's quarterly.
Yes,
Yeah, you gotta tell it's quarterly, and then they change it for you.
okay.
They change the interest, they change the number of periods, both. So you tell it 5 years, and you tell it 12%, but you tell it it's quarterly, it did it for you. Or you tell it it's monthly, it did it for you. Don't forget to tell it it's quarterly, it'll do annual. What does your calculator assume? It's annual unless you say otherwise, right? Yeah, so that works. It's kind of nice, huh? Kind of handy. See, calculators are really nice. Computers are really nice if you know how to use them. Otherwise, they're just an abject disaster. You know, real early term with computers is input garbage, output garbage. Have you ever heard that one? It's really true. You put junk in the computer, it'll give you a really nice display of absolute junk, right? It'll make it look like it's right when it's not. That's the danger with using Word instead of writing things out by hand, which obviously I'm not writing out by hand, I'm going to use Word, right? But when you type in something in Word, it makes it look really wonderful, doesn't it? Even if it's just garbage that you wrote. You guys have experienced this when you get a good English teacher? Say, yeah, it looks really perfect, F on it. Who cares what it looks like? You care what it says, right? Okay, so this is no different. You gotta get your numbers right. I better not put that there. You just see that nothing upside down. I haven't done that ever. I've dumped water on a printer before, or a keyboard before. It didn't destroy it. You know, water didn't. Got lucky. All right, let's do the next one. Let's see. Let's go back to this. Add another one. 3. What is an investment that pays out $4,000 per year for 20 years worth now? Okay, when you see exactly the same payment every period, no period skipped, and the interest rate doesn't change, it says 10% per period, right? Okay, per year. What are you looking at? An annuity. Why do you think it's ordinary? Because the payment is at the end. When we do number 4 here, when's the payment? We just turned it into a what? Annuity due. Okay, which one has more interest? If I'm compounding out into the future, which one has more interest? The due, right? What if I'm discounting back to now? Which one has more interest? It's the same answer, but it's going to make it, it's going to look different, right? Because you're sucking the interest out, it's going to make it less valuable. Okay? So let's give this a try. So what are we calculating here, by the way? Well, what do we know? If on number 3, it says that I have $4,000 per period. What do we call that? 4,000 is a payment, right? What'd be a good name to call a payment? How about an annuity payment? My annuity payment, and you want to identify what kind it is. It is at the end of the year, so it's an ordinary annuity payment. Everybody good? Always pick that up. When is the payment? It matters, because it's going to change the number of periods, right? That you're compounding your discount. That's all. Am I telling you guys anything you didn't already know? Probably not. You've had classes where you did this, right? We did it in 101. We did. I showed you how to do it then too. Right? Okay? So it's just review, sort of, right? Then make sure you got it really wired. Make sure you can do this. You did an econ class too or something? Didn't you do an econ? Did a math class? We really beat this to death, don't we? How come? Because it's critical. You got to know this. Okay? All right. So we got an ordinary annuity payment. How much is it? $4,000. What do we need to know? How many of them, maybe? How many of these ordinary annuity payments are there going to be? I got 20 years. It's 20. Okay? It's going to be years this time. And by the way, could I do the same thing? Make it quarterly? Tell you what the annual payment is and tell you it's quarterly, and you have to make it 1,000 instead of being 4,000? Sure. They'll do that to you on problems. Okay? All right, or monthly or something. All right, and then I need an interest rate. I need it for the same number of periods. It's annual, too. I didn't screw with that. So that's 10%, right? Okay, what 2 things could I ask you for? Seeing as I gave you those, what's left? Yeah, I'd either have a present value or I could have a future value. And this one people screw up all the time, too. I guess the future value would be 20 periods from now. It's 20, right? Everybody agree? Which one did I ask you for? Yeah, I want to know what it's worth now. Could I ask you instead if I were to make these investments in an ordinary annuity, what it'd be worth in the future? Yeah. I can give you exactly the same question side by side and drive you crazy with stuff like that. That'd be fun. Okay, for me. All right, so let's calculate both of them. I did ask you for the present value, so let's do it. How do you do this? By the way, always figure out how much you're valuing here. How much are you valuing? 4,000 times 20 is how much? Yeah. If I'm going to take a present value of that, do you think it's going to be more or less than 80,000, seeing as I'm sucking the interest out of it? I bet it's less. Start with that. Don't give me an answer that's more than 80,000, please. Some of you will, and I will laugh at you. I'll put ha-ha in your paper. I'm not kidding. Crying out loud. I want to do business with you. Fantastic, right? That'd be good, huh? You give me more than 80,000 now, and I'll give you 80,000 later. That's fantastic. I'll do it. Okay. And if I'm going to do a future value on it, what do you think? Is it going to be more or less than 80,000? If it's going to add interest, come on, it's going to be more. Okay, so always do that, please. Okay, it'll really help you. All right. Anyway, can you tell I've had a little frustration with this over the years? Just a bit? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I try not to do that in principles because it's bad enough. I make enough fun of them. Okay, you guys too when you're in there. Okay, calculate it. What do you do? How would you set this up? I don't care. You can divide or you can multiply. The author always divides, don't they, on these things? I prefer to multiply. I don't know why. Probably somebody taught me to do it that way. I got an ordinary, and I always keep track of whether it's ordinary to do. It's really, really important. You grab the wrong table, you're messed up. Or if you put it in your calculator wrong. What do you do in the calculator? You tell it the payments are at the beginning or the end. That's it. Okay? That's it. Does it assume one or the other in your calculator? It probably does. It probably assumes ordinary and you have to tell it the other. Or maybe you have to tell it or it won't work. Either way. Okay? So make sure you get the right one in there. So I've got a payment of $4,000. I know that's $80,000. That's okay. Right? And I'm going to do what? I'm going to take it times what kind of a factor if I'm using the table? How about, am I calculating the future or present value, you guys? I'm calculating the present first. That's what we're doing, right? That's the problem asked for. So what do I want? I want a present value of an ordinary annuity. Get the right table if you're going to use the tables. Ordinary annuity. And that's a factor, okay? And all they did, think about this. What you could do if you wanted is you could calculate the present value of a payment of $4,000 1 year from now, right? And then you could calculate the present value of 4,000 2 periods from now, and 4,000 3 periods from now, and 4,000 4 periods from now. And you can do that 20 times, and you can add them all together. You do that if you want to. That'd be a big waste of time, because what can you do instead? You can take the 20 factors, and you can add them all together, right? Take the factor for 1 period, the factor for 2 periods, the factor for 3, on up to 20, and add them all together, and what do you get? You get an annuity factor for 20 periods. Does everybody know that? Take a look at the annuity table. This is a good thing to get down. Take a look at the present value of a sum table. What interest rate are we using? 10%. So we're looking at page 337, right? Present value of a sum is on page 337, 10% column. You see it there? $1 received a year from now is worth 91 cents. 2 years from now, 83 cents. 3 years from now, 75. Everybody got it? The 120 periods from now, what's that one worth? It's about 15 cents. 14.864. Everybody see it? Okay, go over to that annuity table. Present value of an ordinary annuity. Go to the 10% column. What's the first one? 91 cents. Does that look familiar? Yeah, it's exactly the same one as on the sum table. That's because it's only 1 period. 1 period's 1 period. What's the $1.73 there in the second period? 90 cents plus 81. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So if we go down to 20, what is it for 20 periods? $8.51. Everybody see it? What if you added up the 10% column, those first 20? You would get very close to that 8.51356. Does everybody know this? All they did was they added the tables up for you. You got a little formula there to do it? All they did was added up the tables, huh? That's it. That's what your calculator's doing too. Only your calculator actually calculates all of them and adds them up. Okay? No, it doesn't. It uses the formula, which is just calculating all of them and adding them up. Some formula. Okay? Yeah. So big deal. So what was that factor again? If we want to use the factor?
8.51356.
What's worth $8.51, everybody? Put it in plain English for me. $1.
Or now at a 10% interest for 20 years.
Well,
Depending on how.
that's $8.51 is the present value of. It's what it's worth now. But what's worth now? $1 received at the end of every period for 20 periods, all discounted at 10%. The present value of $1 received at the end of each period for 20 periods, all of them discounted at 10% back to now, adds up to $8.51. So what's worth $8.51? $20 is. Everybody agree with that? How much interest would you earn? I'll ask you ridiculous questions like that. How much interest would you earn there? You're getting back $20, you invest $8.51. How much interest do you earn? The difference, $11.49. Isn't that right? Intuitive, right, guys? Intuitive. It's obvious. Okay. So if I really would like to have a retirement of $4,000 a year, yeah, whatever. Okay. Add a couple zeros to that one. Okay. I'd like to have, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? 400? Yeah, 1,000. If I want to have $4,000 a year for 20 years, right? If I want to receive that, and I think I can earn 10% interest, how much do I need to invest now? That's all this is, huh? That's that annuity thing you were talking about. Here we go. That's how you do annuities, okay? How much is it worth? It's 4,000 times $8.51. That doesn't mean that 4,000 is worth $32,000, does it? What's that number anyway? What's 4,000 times 8.51356? 54 and some pennies. 34,054 bucks. How many of you got that number, by the way, when you did these in the first place? Almost everybody? Okay. All right. Make sure you can. 34,054, okay? So the present value is 34,054. We're not saying 4,000 is worth 34,000, are we? What's worth 34,000, you guys? The 80,000 is. Keep contact with reality. Don't just calculate, right? And the interest that you'd earn, if you invest 34,000, you get 80,000 back. It's how much in dollars? The difference, right? $46,000. And then you could say you earned what kind of interest? 10%. Okay? Make sure you know what you're doing here. Okay? Easy, I think, I hope. Let's do the future value. What if we wanted to do future value instead? How would you do that one? Now what kind of a decision am I making? I am investing, right? 4,000 at the end of each period for 20 periods, and I want to know what it's going to grow to. By the way, how many periods interest do you have in your first deposit? You invest it 1 year from now and you leave it to the end of 20 years. How many periods do you have on the first deposit? 19 on the first one. 19 years, right? The second one, 18 years. The last one, how much do you have in the last one? None, zero. You deposit it and it's worth 4,000, right, guys? So when you look at a future value table, it looks a lot different, doesn't it? Look at the future value of an annuity. Future value of an ordinary annuity. We have that one, don't we, somewhere? On page 339, for instance. Look at the 338, 339. Look at the first year. What is it? 1.0. How come it's 1.0? The money's deposited at the end of the year, no time goes by, there's no interest. Everybody understands that, right? And then they just add the future value from the future value to sum, right? We add them up, right? From then on. The first one's only $1, right? Everybody got it? $1's $1 right now. Okay, good. Get your head around this stuff. So let's calculate this one. What do I have? I still have an ordinary annuity payment. So it's the same ordinary annuity payment, okay? $4,000. Times what? A future value of an ordinary annuity. You got it? And that's going to give me a what? A future value some number of periods from now. How many periods was that? 20. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to go look up a factor for 20 periods, 10%, right? Everybody got it? For a future value of an ordinary annuity. Okay? Now, this is still 80,000 we're valuing. But how big do you think that factor is going to be? Seeing as we're valuing $20, do you think it'll be bigger than $20 or less than $20? Maybe bigger, because you're going to add interest to the $20, there's 20 payments. I bet it's a lot bigger. What's the factor to look up the factor?
57.
$57.275. Okay? What becomes worth $57.28? $20 does. Right? Everybody get it? So what's this 4,000, 80,000, 4,000 at the end of each period for 20 periods, right? What's that 80,000 going to grow to? It's 4,000 times 57.275. Did you read out the right number? Okay, I don't trust you. Okay, anyway, more than one person looked at it, right? Okay, so I do trust you, just let's look. 4,000 times 57.275 is what?
129,100.
Everybody good? This is easy, isn't it? Okay? Fun and games. All right, so let's do another one. Change it to be 4 here. Payments at the beginning of the year. It's the only difference. What do we call this annuity? It's an annuity due. Right? An annuity due payment this time. What does that mean? Actually, if I'm compounding, I have one more period, don't I? Right? The first one's going to be compounded for 20 years. Last one's going to be compounded for 1 year. Right, guys? And at the beginning of the period. What if I'm discounting? There's one less period of discounting, isn't there? First one's right now. Right? No interest. Got it? Last one's 19 periods. It looks funny when you calculate this. Okay? All right. So annuity due payment is still 4,000. Interest rate, discount rate, still 10%. Number of periods is still 20. Okay, good. If you want to know the present value of this thing, what would you do? What's going to change? Factor's going to change a little bit, right? Okay. Is this going to be worth more or less, the present value? I'm receiving these payments in the future if it's calculate the present value of it. So instead of receiving the first one a year from now, I receive it now. Do you think that's worth more or less? It's worth more. This is going to be worth more, isn't it? Present value of this one's going to be more than the present value of the ordinary annuity. So all you got to do is calculate it. It's no big deal. I've got a $4,000 annuity payment, right? That's that annuity payment there. Okay. Take it times the factor for an annuity due, right? Okay. And that is going to give me then the present value, isn't it? That's all we're going to do. So what is that factor if you go look it up? 20 periods, 10%. We do have an annuity due, don't we? How much is that?
9.36492.
That is more, isn't it? How about that? In fact, take that factor and divide it by 1.1 and see what factor you get. Taking 1 period's interest out of it. What factor do you get? Did I go the right direction? You got the other factor, didn't you? Well, you take the other factor and take it times 1.1. You get to this one. You're going to have to do that on future value. Or you can just go down 1 period and subtract 1 from it. Okay, that'll work too. Okay, yeah. All right, so what's 4,000 times 9.36492? What's the whole 80,000 worth there, right? Still $80,000. It's going to be worth what? 30. Good. 459. Okay. 460. Everybody get it? You can do these? Okay. That's the present value. Do a future value for me. How about if I ask for the future value 20 periods from now? What would you do? That one's going to be harder, you guys. Only because if you use the tables, it's going to be harder. If you use your calculator, it doesn't make any difference. What do I need now? I need a future value of an annuity due factor. And I'm going to see what 80,000 is going to grow to, huh? Right? So the annuity due, and this is going to grow to what? More or less than the other one? I need a future value of an annuity, of an ordinary annuity. You had less compounding, so this is going to be more, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be more. Okay? So, can you go look up that factor? We don't have it, do we? So what are we going to have to do if you want to use the tables? How about going to a future value of the ordinary annuity?
Would you just go one period up or one period down?
One period up. Add one period, because there's going to be more compounding, right? So instead of being 57, now I got 64. But be careful, what do I need to do? That's now 21 periods. I only want 20. What do I need to do? Subtract 1.0 for the first period. I'm back down to 20 periods, and I have the right periods now. So everybody follow? Go down one more period, in this case from 20 to 21. I'm on page 339. From 20 to 21, right? Go down one more period, and I get, for 21 periods, for an ordinary annuity, it'd be $64 instead of 57. Everybody see it? But then you have to subtract the 1.0 for the first period, because you don't have that payment. Does that make sense? So that's now 20 payments, right? With interest for the full period, right? It's an annuity due, so we've got full payments. So what I'd have is 63. Does that sound good? 63.00250. Sound good? All right. There's another way. What could we do? Yeah, times 1.1 in this case, right? 1 plus the interest rate. So go to 20 periods on this table, and you've got 57.275. Try this with your calculator. 57.275. I want one more period's interest on every single one of those years, right? Because they're at the beginning of the period instead of the end. Take 57.275 times 1.1, and what do you get? It's a miracle. 63.0025. Everybody see it? Can you do this? Okay. Or if you got a nice calculator, just play it. Okay. It's okay. Make sure you know how to use it. I can't emphasize that enough. Okay. So I'll have people say, I just hit the wrong key. Well, yeah, but you hit the wrong key, and then you got the wrong answer, and you didn't know it was the wrong answer. Oh, how do you not know it's the wrong answer? You got millions instead of hundreds of thousands. Give me a break. How good a deal you think this was? Okay, so I have sort of a frame of reference for what it's going to look like. By the way, is it intuitive how big these numbers are going to get? Not really, right? 63 times, really? $20 becomes $63, really? Well, yeah, with 10% interest in 20 periods, yeah, it's probably okay. But I wouldn't think that, what is this going to be? What's 4,000 times 63.025? Okay, if you got 2,520,000 here and gave it to me, I will laugh at you. Kind of an investment's going to yield that. Winning at the casino over and over and over, right, in a row, one after, yeah, with big numbers invested, gamble. All right, so that's the future value. Okay, so let's do something else. Is everybody comfortable with all this so far? It's just not a big deal? I'm wasting your time today, I hope? Every day I come in here hoping I waste your time. I'm pretty good at it, huh? Okay, I want to waste your time. I want you to already know how to do this stuff. You doing that? Looking at it, practicing it, working, you're getting it down now, right? That's how we do this. And then I just fill in a couple pieces. You can ask me questions or something. Or, I don't know, we just goof off. That's all right, too. All right, let me give you something else. Just for fun. Number 5. All right, my future value at time 0. Good, Keith. My future value, let's make it B. My future value let's make it B. How many periods do we have here? Let's make N B. Years. Okay. My future value, let's just pick a number, it's $200,000. My present value at time 0, obviously, is $100,000. I want to know that. And then for 6, do another one. solve that for me. And we could do it with the annuities, it wouldn't matter, right? All the same calculations, and can you solve those? A lot easier when I just lay it out for you, isn't it? When you have to read the question. Everybody got their answers? You need to use the tables, you use the calculator, calculate. Better have the right answer. Confident. Tables are kind of a pain because you have to do what's called interpolate on the tables. I can show you how to do that if you want. It was always real fun, and then they came out with these nice calculators. You don't have to do it anymore. Set up the problem exactly the same way, you guys. Right? Figure out what the factor must have been, and then find the factor on the table. Okay? It's nice you guys are a good group. Just telling us you trade around that. They can work you guys to death. Don't work out good. You guys will work hard with it. And then tell them about the freshmen. We're not going to have any accounting majors. Yeah, well. I had 12 in the classes after 7 classes after they all said their players. All like you used to do. Not like you smile. She hated me for got over that. That's good. So we got answers? What do you do, guys? How do you set this up to think about it? I know what. You can set it either way. Put the future value on the left or on the right, present value on the left or the right. Doesn't make any difference. Okay, so if I know the present value, we do it this way if you want. So here's 5. If I know the present value is 100,000, and I know that somehow it grows up to the future value 10 periods from now, okay, and of course we can split these up and do semi-annual interest or quarterly interest or monthly interest, of course, right? Okay, but it's 10 periods. We know it's 200,000. What is the factor in here that represents what? It's going to be 1 plus the interest rate raised to the number of periods. I know the number of periods. What I don't know is the interest rate. Everybody see that? So it's going to be what? 1 plus some interest rate raised to the 10th is that, but okay, I guess I wrote it twice, didn't I? This should have been n. Okay, anyway, so what's the deal with this? I can compute what this factor is. Divide 100 into 200 and we got 2.0, don't we? What is this? This is a future value of a sum factor for 10 periods. Right, guys? Go to the table, future value of a sum table. Okay? and go down to 10 periods. What page number is that? 334, okay? Go to page 334, go down to 10 periods and go across until you find 2.0 or you get real close to it. What interest rate do you find? Nothing at 2.0, right? There is none. So tell me what number is right above 2.0 and what number is right below 2.0 interest rates. Between 7 and 8%? If you told me this is between 7 and 8%, I would take it, okay? That'll be all right. If you use your calculator, what number did you get? 7.18. Okay, so I bet you anything, it's a lot closer. That's the real number? Number, you got that? A couple of them you did there, okay? All right, so 7.18. I bet it's a lot closer to the factor than 7%, is it? What's the factor for 7% and what's the factor for 8? Oh, there is no 7%. I managed to hit it, didn't I? Yeah. So I guess we have to use the 6 and the 8 on these ridiculous tables. I don't know why they left 7 off these tables. I don't get it, but they did. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Well, it's nice to have a 2.5 maybe if you want to show somebody a different interest rate. Anyway, but you got the idea with this thing? We could interpolate between 6 and 8 too, by the way. We could take the factor for 6 and the factor for 8 and estimate what it is between them. We wouldn't be very accurate. Calculator's better. But you got the idea of how to do this? Okay, it's exactly the same thing for 6, huh? Let's do that one. What do we know? Now, let's set it up the other way this time, just for fun. I know the future value. It's fun. No, it's not. Future value, some number of periods from now, is 100,000. You can set it up this way too, of course. And on the other side, I know the present value at time 0 equals 60,000, does it? Okay. And you could have flip-flopped those. It doesn't make any difference. This time, if the future is here and I'm calculating the present, this is like time travel. 1 over, back to the future, 1 over 1 plus the interest rate raised to the number of periods. Well, this time I know the interest rate, don't I? 1 over 1.08. I just don't know the number of periods. That factor is 60,000. So if you plug into your calculator 100,000 future value, 60,000 present value, 8%, and you solve for the number of periods, it'll tell you whatever the number of years were. What was that, by the way? 6.64. Okay? 6.64 years. Okay? Wonderful. All right, let's use the tables. What would you do? This time, because I turned it into a present value calculation here, right? Go to the present value of a sum table, go to the 8% column, go down until you find this factor. But what's the factor? Take 100, right, and divide it into 60. What's your factor? It's 0.6. So I'm looking for 0.60 as a factor. Can you find that one? It's somewhere between 6 and 7 years. I managed to hit it twice. Yeah, but it's anywhere. It's somewhere between 6 and 8, right? Much closer to 6 than to 8. Yeah. Oh, 7 years is there. Oh, good. That's right. Okay, it was 7%, wasn't it? So it's between 6 and 7 years, a little closer to the 7. Got the idea, guys? So if you said 6 to 7 years, I would be happy. If you don't have a fancy calculator. Everybody good? If you got a calculator, go ahead and calculate. Is this easy? I recommend that you work some problems like I said I like this book. It's all loose, didn't I? Oh, well. Oh, there's some cool ones back here. 610, for instance, is kind of neat. Should I lease or purchase? Realistic stuff. There's pension funding, 611 or 612. Try a thing like that. Analysis of business problems is really good. 6.9, problem 6.9. Notice I'm going for the later problems. Why would I do a thing like that? Yeah, they get more complicated. So what I would do if I were you is I would do problem 6.1 through the end of the problems. I would for sure work all those. Okay? And they should be pretty quick. It's just the same thing over and over and over. Right? What things do you have to work with, guys? What do you need to know? Guys and gals. What do you need to know? Number of periods. Interest rate.
Present value.
Present value, maybe. Future value, maybe. What else? You could have an annuity payment. What do you need to know about the annuity payment? Good. Yeah. Used to be real quiet. That's good. Noisy. Okay, I like that. Okay, then what? That's good. Yeah. Ordinary or due. Don't leave yet. Work one more. Come on. You got 6 minutes. Okay, I'm not making it up even. I'm going to let you work one. Okay, on problem, I hereby decree. Problem 6.3. Work it real quick. Bid A and bid B, tell me which one you want. Just write down those things. What do you need to know, you guys? Write it down for each of them and solve it. This is not a big deal. You can be done with this in 5 minutes easy. What do you know? Write down what you know about each of those bids and then solve it. Yeah, problem 6.3 on page 328. I just glanced at it and thought that one looks like fun. They're all kind of fun. So do bid A and then do bid B. You might want to pick up that their cost of capital is 9% from the instructions. Okay? How would you decide which option you're going to choose? I want the one that costs less. Buying a car here, right? You know what it says? I want to pay less. It's exactly the same quality, right? All this quality's got to be the same, of course. So which one's less? That's all you're doing. And you can't tell just looking at the cash flows. You have to take the present value of it. That's all. So what do I want to know in both cases? I already know. I didn't even read the problem. I know what I want to know. You guys don't know what I want to know yet? I want to know the present value of it, you guys. And compare the present value of the two. Ordinary review. Okay. What do I have? Do it. This is bid A. That was faster, still a little bit easier. It's number 5 on the whole list. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's the most bold. And I overpacked it. What do you call those? I always think of it as a Kruger. It's not a Kruger. That was the mass murderer, but whatever the machine is. Sure, thank you. Kruger would have been more fun. Yeah, it was mass murder, yeah. In a movie. Yeah. It's Hollywood, yeah. It's kind of, yeah. You guys get an answer? Write her answer down and we can make fun of what's wrong.
Not fair.
What do you have to do with each, you guys? Each one has what? A sum and a annuity, it looks like to me, doesn't it? Yeah, that's it. Okay, so not bad. Okay, except one's even more complex than that, isn't it? Only lasts 5 years, have to be replaced. Okay, so let's give them a shot. Let's calculate. What do I know? For bid A, it costs $575 per yard to install. How many are they doing? 12,000 yards. So let's take 12,000 yards times 575. Did you do that first? How much is that? 69,000. What's the present value of 69,000 right now? Yeah, it's the present value for one. Okay, that's pretty easy. This surface will have to be replaced at the end of 5 years. The annual maintenance cost is 25 cents per square yard for each year except the last year of service. The replacement service will be similar to the initial service. What do you do with that?
To the present value of 60, or,
Their annual maintenance cost is 25 cents per yard. What's 25 cents times 12,000? It's $3,000. Then you have to make a decision here. What is it? That's an annuity payment, isn't it? I want to know what. Beginning or end of period, right? When do you suppose you do it? At the end? Okay. Except for the last year of service. So what? Oh, so it's 3,000 for how many periods? Yeah, N equals 4 for that one. Right, guys? Okay. Discount rate? Why didn't I care about the periods here? Because it's now. Why didn't I care about the discount rate? Because it's now, right? Okay, so 9%, 4 periods, 3,000 annuity, right? So that's $12,000. Everybody agree with that? And you think it's at the end of the period? I do too. Okay, end of period. Okay, so what I've got is an ordinary annuity then, right? $3,000. Not bad, is it? Ordinary annuity payment this guy is $3,000. End of period. So I want to factor for an ordinary annuity, and what do I want to know? It's present value, right? What did I do wrong? Oh, down at the bottom it says 9% in the instructions. Read the whole problem. Yeah, okay. I even said it, but you're already working. I'm sorry. Okay, so 9%. Okay, we want to pick that up. So what I want to do is go find a factor for what? 9%, 4 periods. Everybody agree? What is that factor? And this is a present value of an ordinary annuity. What was that factor if you used the table?
3.23972.
3.23972. What's worth $3.24? $4, right? Okay, that's what it's worth now because I'm paying it out later, right? Both of these are cash out, aren't they? 69,000 right now, and then equivalent value how much later? What's 3,000 times 3.23972? 9,000 something. Who's got that?
$9,719.16.
Okay, so we'll just round it off. Okay, so I've got 9,719 and then 69,000. So what's the total deal? Add the two together. This is for 5 years, right? 69 plus 9, 78,719. Okay, now what do you do for the rest of it? Seeing as the other one lasts for 10 years. It said prices are not expected to change, didn't it? So what do we do for the rest of it? The second one's easier than this one. This one's a pain. What do we need to do? I am going to put out 69,000 again, aren't I? When am I going to put it out? In the future. When? 5 years later. At the end of 5 years, I'm going to redo it. So what would you do? That is a future value. When? 5 years from now. $69,000. Everybody agree? See how this gets complex real fast? It is, right? It's 5 years from now. I'd like to know what its present value is now because I'm valuing this thing now, you guys. Discounted at what? 1 over what? 1.09. They said prices weren't changing, so it's still going to be 69,000, right? Okay, 1 over 1.09 raised to the what? Fifth. Right, guys? What's the factor for a sum? 9%, 5 periods. Point. You have any idea what you're going to do with these? Convincing you to work some problems. Okay, what is this factor? 9%, 5 periods. What is it, about 0.5 or something? 0.64, 993. Each one of those 69,000 is only worth that much now, so that's all that I'm putting out in today's dollars. What's 69,000 times that? 69 times 0.64993. What do we get? You didn't get this far, did you guys? Ah, okay. How much is that? Yeah. All right, so now I've got 78,719 for the first 5 years, and then I've got this later, but I also have the maintenance, don't I? And they say the maintenance isn't going to change either. So what's the maintenance? It's still an end of period for 4 periods, isn't it? Everybody agree? Right? So isn't it going to be $3,000? But now we got to be careful, because it's $3,000 per period for 4 periods. But what do I want? N is still 4. Interest rate is still 9%. But what do I want to take at times here to get the present value of it? What I can do is I can go pick up the factor for 8 periods and subtract the factor for, no, it's more than 8. It's the factor for 9 periods, because it's 9 years out, and subtract the factor for 5 periods, and that'll give me the factor for the last 4. And then I can take that factor times my 3,000 and find out what it's worth. Or I could just discount this exactly the way I did. Take it times 3,000 times 3.23972, and I would find out the present value when 5 years from now. So now it's a present value 5 years from now is 9,719. That's easier because I already calculated it. Then what do I want to do with that puppy? Discount it for 5 years. Take it times the discount factor. 0.64993. So 9,719 times 0.64993, how much is that? Do that one real quick. I'll let you out of here. I won't have you do the other one. You can work on this on your own. See what you want to do for next time? Work a bunch of these and we'll try them. What do I get there? Okay. So what I would do is I would add together my 69 plus my 9,719, which was the 78,719. Then I'd add to that 44,845, and I added that 63,16, and I would know what that option costs in today's dollars. Oh man. Okay. So you have your parking lot, 12,000 square feet, paid for 10 years and maintained. Yeah, it's business. Okay. Anyway, guys. See you later. Study, 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 study. Work. That was a good use of a couple of minutes. Not that I think I showed you how to do it, but I think I got you to work at it. Everybody knew how to do everything today until we did that. What happened? Yeah. Business is complex. We'll pound through a few of them. They're really fun. And I get the most convoluted ideas when I'm writing test questions on present values. It's fun. I have a good time with it.
Actually, was going to do a quote on a motorcycle, but it was like $4 million. You know how to plug in the rock
Oh, man. Yeah, you can do that.
He's always been like this.
What? Oh, that's this is thing that one do it. If you do have one, put it in. You gotta start with like this, you don't have to solve for whatever you need empty, you go to solve for. Okay, you ask for it. Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah. Like that one, I didn't know.
Oh, here's for you.
Yeah.
PY in the calculator, you guys, periods per year, I would use Excel. Periods per year and CY, you know what that means? You guys work that way too?
We don't have one of those. Yeah, I have the Texas one.
I'm trying to
Go out online, you probably lost your book, everybody does. Go out online and look it up your calculator. Yeah.
Do you have the key for this?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I can drive. How do you always get hurt?
I think she's away. I don't know if she's really hurt.
I don't think she just.
Might be a gold gripper, right? Yeah.
I don't think she, I think it's just.
Do they still call people gold grippers? What do they call them that? I don't know, why do they call them gold grippers anyway? Just when they refuse to work, you know?
Yeah.
They still use that phrase?
She was hurt all last year, and I was gonna be hurt all this year for trying.
Well,
only heard this semester.
she gets a scholarship and doesn't have to do anything, just wrap up her leg and wander around town.
This is a workout. This sucks.
Leave me alone,
Yeah.
man. Sure.